Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting of the Library Board, the Housing Authority Board, the Community Services District Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. This is our regular meeting, Thursday, June 5 at 1 p.m. And thank you all for attending. We have some very special things taking place today, but first, why don't we start with our flag salute, and Cindy Scott, our city clerk, is going to be leading us in our flag salute.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Cindy, would you please take roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Hobart.
Here.
Councilmember Kite.
Here.
Councilmember Townsend.
Here.
Councilmember Weil.
Here.
And Mayor Smotrich.
Here. So, we're going to start off today with some wonderful presentations. I will come down in front, and I'm looking for some special people, one of which is Dr. Charles Manel, and let me come down there and meet you down there in just a minute. Okay. The city takes great pride, as do all the council members, in awarding this wonderful certificate of appreciation presented to Dr. Charles Manel. On behalf of the entire city council of the city of Rancho Mirage, we hereby recognize and appreciate Dr. Charles Manel for his pioneering work planning and developing the extraordinary Rancho Mirage Public Library, and for his nearly 2 decades of generous donation of time, effort, funds, and tender loving care committed to the building and advancement of our exceptional library, the crown jewel of our wonderful city, presented this 5th day of June 2014. And before I ask him to come up and receive his certificate, and actually there's a couple of things that are going to be presented to him, I wanted to read an excerpt of what was read into the congressional record on May 21st, 2014 by our Senator Barbara Boxer. It is my pleasure to honor Dr. Charles Manel as he retires from the Rancho Mirage Library Advisory Commission after 2 decades of service to the library and the community it serves. Throughout a long and distinguished career in medicine, Dr. Manel gave generously of his time to a variety of charitable causes, especially those supporting music and education. Being particularly devoted to supporting public libraries, Dr. Manel served on the California State Library Commission for 14 years, prior to retiring from medicine in 1992 and becoming a full-time resident of Rancho Mirage. In 1992, Dr. Manel was appointed to the Rancho Mirage Public Library Planning Committee and led the effort to convert a former bank building into the first library. On January 6, 1996, as chairman of the new Rancho Mirage Public Library Commission, he introduced President Gerald Ford for the ribbon-cutting ceremony and formal opening of the Rancho Mirage Public Library. In 2003, he secured a gift of $2 million from the Annenberg Foundation to purchase land for a new and larger Rancho Mirage Public Library, which opened on January 6, 2006, 10 years to the day after the first library opening. Dr. Minnell has shared his lifelong love of music with the library and the community. With his personal contributions and fundraising efforts, he helped the library purchase a Steinway concert grand piano and sponsored concert performances. He has also donated his personal Civil War library to the Rancho Mirage Library and generously made possible a private study room in the library. I am pleased to join my colleagues in saluting Dr. Charles Minnell for his dedicated and inspiring service to the community of Rancho Mirage, and I am delighted to present him with this certificate of appreciation. So, if you can now join me up here. Yes. Okay, why don't you come over? That's not this time, maybe next time. But maybe we could each hold one of these. Yours that you are holding is the Certificate of Appreciation from the City of Rancho Mirage. And the one I'm holding is a framed tribute to Dr. Charles Minnell. And that was the wording that I read to you just momentarily ago. And it is the congressional record. And this is the certificate that goes with it. So. Okay, now, how about if we have a few words from our honoree?
Can I go over there?
You can go anywhere you want. It's your day.
I got a piece of papers.
Okay, come on over.
Is this microphone on now? Okay, thank you. Mayor Smotrich, members of the board, it's very kind of the city and the library board to give me this recognition, but it is I who should recognize the library for the great pleasure it has given me to have been part of the birth and growth of this remarkable institution. Nothing could have been more rewarding than having an opportunity to continue my lifelong love affair with libraries, an affair which has included the great libraries of Pasadena, the Huntington Library in San Marino, the Library of Congress, the State Library in Sacramento, and our neighbor, the Cathedral City Library, and capped off by being chosen in November 1993 as the chair of the Library Planning Committee, newly organized by Mayor Jeannie Parrish. This meeting today should rightfully be celebrating the 20th birthday of our library, for it was at the council meeting of May 1994 when the council adopted the resolutions presented by the Planning Committee that Rancho Mirage should establish a truly independent, full-service municipal library under the provisions of California library law, and should purchase and refurbish an existing building to serve as the library facility. With that resolution, the path was set for our first library in the former Bank of America building in the Las Palmas Shopping Center, a potential site first identified by our great supporter, Council Member Arthur Newman. It's been my pleasure to work with an ever-changing body of council members during these past 2 decades, all of whom have been consistent in their support of the library and generous in their praise for what has been accomplished. I cannot name them all, but surely I must acknowledge Alan Seaman, Jeannie Parrish, Marilyn Glassman, Anita Richmond, Sybil Jaffe, and Arthur Newman from the founding years, and Dana Hobart, Richard Kite, Gordon Muller, and Ron Mipos from more recent times. Each of these has built a strong foundation to make our library one of the greatest in the country. While the library has witnessed a multitude of mayors since opening, it has been fortunate to have had only 2 library directors for most of the last 19 years and 2 city managers during that period. That kind of operational stability has enabled the library to engage in long-term planning
always with an eye to being a leader in all areas of library public service. With David Bryant now as library director and Randy Binder as city manager, the future looks good and stable. I've greatly enjoyed my years with the library, always made even more rewarding because of the companionship of my life partner, Jerry Benston, who unfortunately can't be here right now. He's been beside me from the beginning, even organizing the 6-hour party in the parking lot tent for the opening of the first library in January 1996. To open our new library in 2006, he initiated his own campaign and contributed heavily to purchase the remarkable piano, which has given our library an international reputation in musical circles. So I share this honor today with Jerry. General MacArthur on retirement famously said he would only fade away. I don't tend to fade out of the library picture, as I look forward to being a supporter of our library during whatever good time is left to me. Thank you. May God continue to bless our library and our wonderful city. Thank you.
We now have one more presentation, and it would be my pleasure to call up Alan Diaz, who will come and represent Assemblyman Brian Nestandi. You're gonna have a whole car full.
Good afternoon, Doctor. On behalf of Assemblyman Brian Nestandi and the California State Assembly, we'd like to honor you with this proclamation and this resolution for all your hard work and dedication for not just the 20 years that you've done, but the future generations of this city that are going to utilize that library, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. An honor duly deserved. And now it is my pleasure to welcome up 2 young ladies from the American Cancer Society. And they will be doing a presentation, recognize the city employees and the City Council for supporting the Relay for Life at the presenting sponsor level by raising over $10,000.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Mayor and City Council members and everyone here today. I would first like to thank you for your support of the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life of Rancho Mirage. We greatly appreciate everything that the City of Rancho Mirage does to support us, both through the City Council and the staff participation in our event. It was a wonderful event on May 3rd and 4th, partly to our wonderful city of Rancho Mirage here. It is with your help and support that we have raised $33,346.95 to date to fight cancer and find a cure for the disease. The City of Rancho Mirage, through the City Council's generous grant and the hard work and dedication of the staff, have raised themselves a total of $15,205.05 to date for the Relay for Life of Rancho Mirage. I would like to give a special thank you to Sandra Johnson and Isaiah Hagerman for leading the fight, and to Dusty Knapp for your passion towards the cause. We truly could not have done this without you and your support. Because of the City of Rancho Mirage and your dedication to this worthy cause, we will be able to continue our research to find a cure for cancer and to provide the necessary programs and services to cancer patients here in the community. And I'm going to pass it off to Jennifer Heggie.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here on behalf of the American Cancer Society. My name is Jennifer Hagee. I'm the Senior Representative of Community Engagement, and I'm also a Rancho Mirage resident. I just wanted to explain to you what your amazing, outstanding efforts in the form of $15,000 plus, courtesy of the City of Rancho Mirage and its wonderful staff, are doing right here in our community to fight cancer. Many of the dollars raised through the Relay for Life of Rancho Mirage go to support local programs and services. And one of those big programs takes place right here at Eisenhower Medical Center, and it's called Look Good, Feel Better. And Look Good, Feel Better is for women who are going through the chemotherapy process, and their hair is falling out and their skin is changing. And we have licensed cosmetologists that teach those ladies how to go through those changes and how to work as a support system and lean on one another. And then right after the Look Good, Feel Better session is over, we have a wig bank that also takes place at Eisenhower Medical Center, and they get a free wig. And all of this is free. All the counseling is free. We have an 800 number that's available 24 hours, 7 days a week in English and in Spanish for anybody who unfortunately has a friend or coworker or family member or sister or brother or relative that gets diagnosed with cancer. If they're struggling to sleep at 3 a.m., they can wake up and call our 800 number and get a real person to talk to them and counsel them and steer them in the right direction. And then we also have transportation right here in the Coachella Valley as well, in the form of Road to Recovery, where we transport for free our patients to and from their doctor's appointments. And that could be as far away as Loma Linda, and we are willing to drive them there. And we also have programs and services at Desert Regional Medical Center. We just formed a new partnership with Gilda's Club in Palm Desert. We're working hand in hand with them. And we just depend on you guys and depend on the city to help us grow these efforts. And so we never have to turn away anybody or tell a cancer patient that they don't have a place to turn. That's what the American Cancer Society is here for. So we just want to say thank you, 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 thank you to everyone involved in all our fundraising efforts, and present some very, very large trophies. This is as tall as I am. To the City of Rancho Mirage staff, on behalf of the American Cancer Society and the Relay for Life of Rancho Mirage, we would love to present the trophy to them, and then also to the city itself for their contributions in the form of a grant and participation over the years to the Relay for Life of Rancho Mirage right here at Marywood Palm Valley School. So thank you for having us, and thank you for all your fundraising efforts. Julie, do you have anything else?
Thank you. We really could not have done this without you, and especially Isaiah, who is up there really leading the fight and getting everyone in the entire city on board. This couldn't have happened without your generous support.
Yeah, next year we would love to see all of your faces at our Relay for Life in 2015. So thank you and congratulations.
And we want to extend a special thank you to you too. Without your services, there would be a lot of people in need that wouldn't get the proper care and loving attention that you are providing. And as people depart, maybe we can take a few seconds just to ask Sandra and Isaiah to say a few words, because we're especially proud of you and the efforts you made and the efforts of all the employees. It looked like an incredibly fun event, and it's so wonderful to be able to mix fun with good deeds, and you are certainly doing the good deeds. We thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. It was a great team effort, all the way from City Council down to the staff level. It was a great event. It's for a great cause. It's an easy way to get involved with your community and really make a difference in people's lives. So we had a great time at the event. There was great participation, and I would really like to especially thank the SAF subcommittee, which is you, Madam Mayor, and Councilman Ted Weil, for their support of this event. And of course, we couldn't do it without the support of our great city manager, Randy Binder.
You are so right. Randy always plays a big part in all of these events, and we're always proud of Randy and the efforts that he makes. Thank you. And Sandra, can you say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to City Council. To echo Isaiah's sentiments, we couldn't have done it without the support of City Council, particularly our leader, Randy Binder, who gives us the motivation to do these type of events, and we appreciate that. I just want to take an opportunity to personally thank all the staff that participated. Their names are up here now on the screen. If you could just take a moment to look at those names, because each one of those people were important and played a key role in us raising the amount of money that we did, particularly Dusty Knapp, who was our MVP. And I think what's noted is that our team raised almost 50% of the total proceeds of that effort. So that's pretty monumental, and I just want to say thank you again and to staff who participated.
Well, thank you. You do us proud, and we're so glad that we could actively participate with you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now, moving on to non-agenda public comments. And this is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. So I have a couple of yellow papers up here. If there are people that have not had a chance to fill out a yellow form, please, you're welcome to do so, or you can just feel free to come down when the other speakers have finished. Okay, first, Thomas Worthy. Okay. You have fancy handwriting. It's very pretty.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. I like it. Okay.
Most people don't care for it.
Okay. Well,
I go by Alan. That's my mother's maiden name, my middle name. Oh, I'm sorry so many people left. These two issues I want to speak about as quickly as possible in 3 minutes. I don't see a clock, but the first one dates back to the Desert Sun from February the 19th of this year. Critics blast lottering solution. Merchants, law might push homeless their way. The third paragraph states, we're just very disturbed that the city's solution is to push the problem north and south. Well, since this is the desert, the south means east. Well, I'm remiss. Let me stop myself. Every time I address a group of people in public, whether it's a city council or in court, which, given what I'm going to address next, I'd like to say my father was in the Navy. And my brother-in-law is a former City of Atlanta police officer. It gives me no pleasure to defame anyone. Now, moving on with the city of Palm Springs, the last 3 paragraphs, a woman who was quoted, she's a hotel owner. Last Saturday, Toronto said a homeless person entered her hotel's pool and started bathing in it. She's not only worried about what that does to her neighborhood, but the city's reputation as a whole. Quote, when you have homeless taking a dive in your pool on a busy weekend, that might end up on the internet, and that's not the experience people want to have, she said. Well, again, the city's solution is to outlaw the homeless and run them out of downtown. So I go back to, with regard to my family. We used to live here in Rancho Mirage, and then I moved back to Palm Springs. And in May, a year ago, I was at the tail end of a pileup out on the 10 freeway. And I was taken to Eisenhower Medical Center, which is why I'm sorry the doctor departed here. I was unconscious, and I was put under. Consequently, I woke up to a complete nightmare. And myself and my family have been the victim of every crime in the books in Palm Springs. And due to what happened to me at Eisenhower, the result of a fraudulent and non-medical power of attorney. I was robbed blind. Let me just share this last, the AHIMA, the American Healthcare Information Management Association. There are 9 numeral digits, the last one, in this code of ethics reads, health information management professionals act with integrity and avoid conflicts of interest in the performance of their professional and AHIMA responsibilities. Eisenhower Medical Center is self-insured, and I consider that to be a gross conflict of interest because they have refused 2 demands that I put on the hospital pro per. And now I have refiled a lawsuit with 13 causes of action, DOEs 1 to 260, with HIPAA, HIPAA is the acronym, violations. That is a federal privacy law. And there's some other insurance company on my record that's not mine. They have dealt with none of it. Okay. Now I am homeless. Having gone from living at the Springs Country Club to being penniless and robbed blind between Eisenhower, malfeasance, and the city of Palm Springs.
Thank you so much for coming to speak and sharing with us some of your heartbreak. And now, Michael New, if you're still in the audience.
Good afternoon, Council and Madam Mayor. The students that that Canine Friendly Visitors works with and that the City of Rancho Mirage sponsors our organization and working with disabled, they're now watching YouTube of City Council, so they made me come so they'll know whether I came or just dropped something off. But the one group of students that you've spent a lot of time with and went on a picnic wanted to make you a proclamation of thanking you and showing you how they watch the City Council meetings in their classrooms and have discussions now about what they're doing. So I leave this with you from the 9th grade class that you support of disabled students.
Thank you so much.
The grant that council so generously gave me, that we developed the youth services program at the Braille Institute. I spent a long time developing we do a lot of animal-centric activities as well as having the dogs visit, and spent a lot of time developing a recipe that every disability could work with in dog cooking, baking. I usually don't share my recipes, but this is the results of your grant. It's the recipe in Braille. So I leave you, the students from the Institute wanted you to have the recipe, a copy of the recipe, and they know that Mr. Hobart has dogs, and these are the cookies that they baked last week with the recipe.
How very sweet. And maybe you could just elaborate a little bit with what you were telling me about the parents coming to view the children making cookies behind the...
Well, it's really interesting because how we've developed this program, I mean, it's expanded greatly with the city's support. But as I said, we're not just animal-assisted therapy, we're animal-assisted therapy plus. We have, developed really serious lesson plans for expanding. Actually, the test scores at the high school have just concluded that the academic excellence of the kids that Canine Friendly Visitors have serviced is up by 30%, and the only thing that changed from last year to this year was the adding of Canine Friendly Visitors to their program. So that's the only thing that they could account for the change. So we have animal-centric activities, our picnics that you've been on, and other activities. At the Braille Institute, what we did was we had the parents come, because parents sometimes with disabled children get in the way of their success, where the parents behind a one-way mirror watching the kids and teaching the kids vocational skills, working with the dogs first to sort of get them out in their comfort zone and out of their own disability, having the recipe for cookies, and then working in a kitchen that had been set up with, I'll give you an example of little pieces of plastic for every 100 degrees on the oven so that they could know how to set the oven and do everything independently. They spent 2 hours working on the recipes, measuring, baking the cookies, cutting the cookies, while the parents observed that, yes, indeed, a lot of the parents talked about they don't let their kids in the kitchen and develop kitchen skills or cooking skills, and now they see that, life skills and independent living is possible. And that's really the goal of my program, is to increase the functional level and increase the mainstream, and to be able to live independently from their disabilities.
And what a thrill for these parents, I'm sure, to watch their children in action, doing things that they never expected their children to do.
Yes, and the grant that you gave us, we have 5 more sessions at the Braille Institute. We have a field trip coming up that I think I told you that the Braille Institute has a menu reader. So we're picking a restaurant in Rancho Mirage where the youth will then, they call the reader service. So let's say you're going to the Spaghetti Depot or any restaurant. You call and say, I want the menu. They'll read the menu to you over the phone, the reader from the library, and they'll pre-order in their head. They'll work with the money and their scope to do that. The dogs give them the comfort level to be able to go in public. It'll be their first experience going to a restaurant and ordering independently and functioning as part of our community. That's the goal. But I thank you very, very much, and the students will be watching this.
Okay, and we thank you so much and extend our love and our good wishes to all the children and to you too.
And let me know if your children like the cookies, because that's what they're going to want to know.
I'll definitely let you know, but I want to say that we had a big dog party over at the Westin the other evening, and Michael was there with his 3 collies, one of whom was blind, and it was the same dog that Michael had brought here to the council a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I can tell you, if that dog illustrates how blind people, animals survive, you would never know that dog had no sight. That dog was such an integral part of the festivities and playing with other dogs and sniffing around, looking for food and just kissing here and there. It was a great, what's that collie's name, Michael?
The dog's name, well, actually, the dog, my group of deaf students got to, the first group of students that I worked with that are completely deaf, profoundly deaf, they got to name her. So she has little spots. She's a blue merle. So they decided Rain, that she had raindrops on her. And then this is Smart, and this is an R. So her sign name is Rain.
Rain.
And her name is Rain.
Good, we'll remember that. She's quite a phenomenon.
Well, thank you.
Give our love to all your troops.
I will. Thank you very much, everyone.
And thank you again, Michael. Are there any other audience members that would like to come up and speak for a moment? Okay, seeing none. Is there a council comments that would like to? No one has any comments? Okay. Well, I do. And this is really something of a very serious nature, because in light of the tragedy that took place 2 weeks ago in the Santa Barbara area, where 6 people were killed, I would like to address a subject which has brought concerns to many of us in the Coachella Valley and around the world. Many people, including myself, have questioned the protection of our students and faculty in our schools. And I hope to answer some of these concerns by saying that after speaking with our Rancho Mirage High School principal and the Palm Springs Unified School District head of security, the following information should bring some assurances that safety measures have been and will continue to be a major priority and will be implemented and updated as needed in all of our schools. Lockdown procedures are in place for students, faculty, and administrators. Police personnel training courses are ongoing and will also be updated as needed. Schools are key accessed from the outside, and as locks are replaced on these doors, a remote control locking system will be in place with only teachers possessing the remote controls. Replacing the older door locks is on the agenda and will cost approximately $6 million. At Rancho Mirage High School, in a shooter on campus situation, administrators call for a lockdown and the classroom staff make sure the classrooms as well as the building doors are locked. And this is the case for all of the buildings on their campus. The school itself is locked during school hours, so access is only through the administrative building. I want to thank everyone for their inquiries, and I hope this information answers some of the questions that the public has been asking. Thank you so much. So now we will move on to approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion? And a second?
Second it.
Okay, please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and now we will move on to the consent calendar. And I think Randy will explain some of the items on the consent calendar for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Before I get to the short consent calendar, Councilman Kite had asked me to give updates to the Council regarding League of California Cities activities and any Assembly or Senate bills that I have written letters of support or denial of. So I'd like to talk about two of those really quickly. The first one is authored by Senator Correa, SB 1262. This is medical marijuana regulation. I issued a letter of support last month. You know, in Rancho Mirage, medical marijuana dispensaries are banned. Delivery services is permitted with a business license. City Council determined that this was the best way to balance various medical and public safety concerns in Rancho Mirage. And then last year, the California Supreme Court decision in Riverside versus Inland Empire clarified that cities can impose dispensary bans, but it really invited the legislature to change that rule potentially. So SB 1262, we wrote a letter of support, would protect local control and preclude an operator from obtaining a state license unless they have local permits in place. And basically what this does is it enforces and emphasizes the fact that we have local land use control to prohibit dispensaries, and this is the position that the council has taken. This is in the Assembly for consideration, and I think there may be a vote next week. Yes?
I just wanted to say we authorized free delivery in the city with a business license, but that license would be given to any service that made deliveries at no cost to them.
Free license.
Is that your, yeah, free license. And I just want to make sure that was your understanding as well.
Do we, Isaiah, do you know off the top of your head, do we charge for that license? If we do, it's probably $43.
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay, so we do charge a nominal fee to issue the business license. And we have issued several.
But the original ordinance,
yes,
I think says that that business license is at no charge to them if they are delivering without charge to residents in the city.
Okay, we will verify that.
Just check that out is the only thing I will say.
Okay.
And up to $25.
And up to $25 reimbursement for transportation expenses.
Made by the individual.
Obtaining the medication. So that's one. And then the other one is a bill that was authored by Assemblyman Brian DeStandy. This is AB 3212, Metal Theft Database. This bill would provide alerts to metal theft recycling centers. This is a regional approach that we know when material is stolen, it's transported from one city to another, and it could travel many miles. This bill would require that all scrap metal recycling centers in California receive updates from the Central Metal Theft Database with information on reported thefts in their region. We know that Rancho Mirage has suffered several metal thefts in the past few years, including copper from our library and several of our businesses from their irrigation systems. So I sent a letter of support for AB 3212. This has passed the Assembly and will be going to committee in the Senate on June 9th. So those are updates on two of them, and I'll provide updates in the future as we take action.
Thank you.
Going on to the consent calendar, I'd like to pull item number 5 regarding library privileges. The Library Director, David Bryant, will talk about that and discuss that with the council for your consideration. Going back to number 1, this is waiving full reading of the ordinances that are introduced or adopted pursuant to the agenda. Item number 2 on your consent calendar is award of contract for the Highway 111 Frank Sinatra Drive intersection improvements. This is City Project CP 06223. This would award the contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, which is TriStar Contracting 2, in the amount of $1,207,000, authorizing also a construction expenditure of $120,000 for contingency and $40,000 for incidentals. This will add left turn lanes to both the westbound Frank Sinatra Drive and eastbound 111 traffic at the intersection, raising the level of service from F to probably C, Bill, would you say? And this project has received Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funding of $900,000, and the remaining $308,000 will be from successor agency bond proceeds, and the council has already budgeted that amount. So if you award this contract today, construction would start in July and be completed by November, and the contractor's plan would maintain access through the intersection with at least one lane at all times. This is the intersection of Frank Sinatra and Highway 111.
Randy, without pulling that item, can you tell us to what extent the Ritz has been notified of this and how we think this is going to impact on their business?
I'm not sure there's been formal notification to the Ritz folks. I think they've known about this. This project has been going on for a long time.
I think what we should do, Bill, is invite them down, go over the plans with them and the construction schedule if this is approved, so we can work with them in partnership.
I do think we have to work very closely with them.
Yes,
yeah, Councilman Hobart, I think as far as impact goes, though, there will be, on 111, there'll be 2 lanes open at all times in both directions, and then on Frank Sinatra, will be minimum 1 lane. So we expect it's mostly there'll be widening of the intersection and some median work too. So we think it'll be fairly small impact, but we will coordinate with them. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had hoped to get that project completed before the opening, but we had right-of-way acquisition issues. Item number 3 on your consent calendar is rejection of bids for the, it says Whitewater Park, but Rancho Mirage Community Park expansion amphitheater project. This is a request that the council reject all the bids that were received on April 16th, and we will hire a consultant to go back and value engineer some of the programs that are planned with the park expansion, including the amphitheater, and come back to the city council with a bid package that will be within our budget.
Randy,
the intention is the award of contract that would take place in October of 2014 and completion by August 2015.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you right in the middle. Regarding the name, have we officially changed the name to Rancho Mirage Community Park?
Didn't the council approve that, I believe?
Because I thought that was going to go hand in hand when we actually broke ground on the work.
Well, we will officially, physically change it when we do that.
So
new signage will be part of the bid package.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So it officially has been changed, though, for all legal purposes.
Well, we haven't changed any signage at the site.
But as far as our general reference to the park, from now on, we're calling it
Rancho Mirage Community Park.
Park.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Officially. So item number 4 on your consent calendar is amending the code that requires applicants to provide truthful information, and if they don't, it would be grounds for revocation of permits. That is our policy now, and that codifies that policy. And then item number 6, we'll skip to that. We'll hold item number 5 for David's presentation. Item number 6 is approval of contracts. And Mayor Smotrich had asked me to highlight some of the contracts that the City Council has approved. This is approval of the actual contract, the paper contract, which allows us to implement the approvals that the Council has given already. First one I'd like to highlight, 3 of them I'll do. The first one is WM Curbside. This is a company that we contract with for 25.
Which number is that?
That is number 32 on 33 on page 6-4. Page 6-4, number 33. WM Curbside is a contract for $25,000. This allows any resident to call an 800 number, so the city contractor will pick up household hazardous waste, old electronics like televisions and computers, pool chemicals, all of those things. And so you can call an 800 number, 1-800-449-7583. That number is on the city website, 800-449-7587. And you can have your appliances and chemicals picked up. The city pays for it. This will help you reduce clutter and help protect the environment. Another one that's on the contract list is $25,000, our annual contribution to the Children's Museum of the Desert. Another one is $30,000 annual contribution to the Bighorn Institute. Another one is $75,000 to do the annual citywide street striping. So, Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Mayor, Madam Mayor, these are contracts for public funds that the public's tax dollars are going towards, and this is money that is put back into the local economy.
Thank you so much. You know, the only problem with saying Madam Mayor or Mrs. Mayor or whatever is that by next year, you're going to be calling Dana Mrs. Mayor. It's okay by me. Thank you so much. So now are we going to go back to David Bryan's presentation
Madam
regarding
Mayor,
the library?
Item number 7 are demands, and if you could take action on that
Okay.
consent calendar, and then we'll go to David for number 5, please.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Move consent calendar.
Thank you. Okay,
Except item 5.
except for item 5.
Except for
All
item
right.
5.
Please cast your vote. All in favor said yes, and motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so turning over to Library Director David Bryant for item number 5, please.
Thank you, Mr. Binder and Mayor Smotrich, members of the Library Board. We bring before you today your consideration of an ordinance that would allow the library director to suspend privileges, borrowing privileges, library privileges of anybody who acts in a way that restricts staff use of the library, acts in a way that prevents other people from using the library with comfort that we expect at the Rancho Mirage Public Library. This is a step that unfortunately we bring to you because I would say no more than twice a year, but who knows what the future holds, we have disruptive patrons. And those visitors can make the library experience unpleasant, not only for staff and our volunteers, but especially for our residents who are trying to use the library as it was intended to be used. So it is our feeling that by allowing the library director to suspend these privileges, the use of the library, we will make the library more comfortable for all who use it appropriately. That's a very brief summary. One of the items within the ordinance that I think makes it particularly fair is that there's an opportunity for a patron who has, whom I'm suggesting shall be suspended, an appeal process. And the appeal process is very clear, and it goes through the city manager's office, and it's very fair. So the opportunity for the patron who has misbehaved to come forward and defend him or herself is in place. We think it is well written. City Attorney Steve Quintanea's office
did, I think, a masterful job explaining how we want to be open to all, intend to be open to all, and historically have been open to all as an information center and a place of great comfort and an intellectual center. But when somebody restricts the use of the library for others and, again, makes staff or volunteers uncomfortable, we think we need this tool to restore good order.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, David, for your presentation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none?
I have a question on it.
Okay.
David, is this for ever, or is there a time limit on it? Do you want to explain that?
The suspension, as written in the ordinance, is for 1 year. It's a written, the library director would write a brief report on the reason for the suspension, the behavior that caused this, and after a year, it is subject to review.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Okay. Seeing none and none from the audience, may I have a motion to approve the consent item number 5?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 5 on the consent.
I second it.
Okay, please vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on to the public hearing with these items. And Randy, I think you're going to be taking this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll turn this over to Bud Kopp, our planning manager, and he'll talk about the multiple species habitat conservation plan.
Thank you, Mr. Binder, and good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. The Coachella Valley Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan, or MSHCP, or MUSHCAP, was developed over 13 years between 1995 and 2006. The deadline for Valley cities and the county to approve the original plan was June 1st of 2006 in order to receive take coverage under the Federal Endangered Species Act and the California Natural Communities Conservation Act. The plan allows preservation of a quality of life characterized by well-managed and well-planned growth integrated with a protected open space system. The plan also assures that critical freeway interchanges, infrastructure, and road projects can be built without delays resulting from endangered species conflicts. The Rancho Mirage City Council adopted the original plan on May 4th, 2006. All Valley cities and the county also adopted the plan with the exception of Desert Hot Springs. Since Desert Hot Springs did not approve the MSHCP, the 2006 plan needed to be modified and recirculated for public comment and Wildlife Agency's approval. In October of 2007, the Rancho Mirage City Council adopted the recirculated plan and environmental impact report. The recirculated plan essentially removed the city of Desert Hot Springs from the MSHCP. This 2014 amendment before you today would include the city of Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District back in the plan and would restore the boundaries from the 2006 plan to include the Upper Mission Creek Big Morongo Canyon Conservation Area. This slide on the screen shows the boundaries of Desert Hot Springs and the Mission Springs Water District to be included within the plan. The private lands to be included total approximately 770 acres. All final amendment documents have been made available for public review here at City Hall and on the CVAG website. The supplemental environmental impact report describes the environmental impacts associated with the inclusion of Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District as permittees under this plan. A 45-day public review period occurred between September 6th and October 21st of 2013, and also last September, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission sent a letter to each property owner within the conservation areas letting them know that the proposed amendment, implementing agreement, and supplemental EIR were available for public review. The final environmental document includes responses to all written comments received from agencies, private organizations, and the public during the comment period. At their March 13, 2014 meeting, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission certified the final EIR and approved the major amendment to include the city of Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District in the plan. Subsequently, the City of Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District approved this major amendment and unanimously endorsed it in April of this year. The staff recommendation also includes approval of an amendment to the Joint Powers Agreement to make the changes necessary to fully include Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District in the MSHCP. Final completion of this major amendment is expected this summer. Once the major amendment is completed and the permit amended, the fee amount will be reduced 8% for all cities and Riverside County as a result of the fee being spread across a larger number of permits. This amendment is necessary to, number one, incorporate the City of Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District into the plan as permittees. It also defines their obligations, commitments, and covered activities consistent with the original plan, and it authorizes those two agencies, the new permittee agencies, authorizes take associated with the cover activities. As permittees, Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District will become part of the effort to enhance and maintain biological diversity and ecosystem processes while allowing future economic growth within the Coachella Valley. As a benefit to Rancho Mirage, the MSHCP mitigation fee will go down by 8% when the permit is amended. Staff's recommending that the City Council adopt the attached resolutions that make responsible agency findings pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, authorize execution of the revised implementing agreement, establishing the implementation policy, and approving an amendment to the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission Joint Powers Agreement to add Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District as members. CVC staff, Katie Barrows, and your city staff are also available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bud. Are there any questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience? I have a question, actually, that I wanted to find out if there are any costs associated with a city opting out and then coming back to opt in.
Yeah, you're referring to the fact that the original plan needed to be redrafted and recirculated, and then now Desert Hot Springs is wanting back in. Perhaps Ms. Barrows would be able to approach the podium and describe how the recirculation was paid for.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just to answer your question, as Bud described, when the city chose not to participate, we did have to recirculate. The cost of that was approximately $1.2 million. And that actually was more recently dealt with through CVAG to account for those costs. The actual major amendment was the cost of having a consultant to prepare that major amendment was paid for by the City of Desert Hot Springs with some funding from Mission Springs Water District and CVAG staff time to work for the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission.
And what was the cost of that?
That was about $350,000 for the consultant time.
Okay, and that was covered by CVAG?
The actual consultant was paid for by the city and by Mission Springs, and then there was additional CVAG staff time. I would say it was probably a comparable amount, maybe
Okay.
$500,000 altogether.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Richard.
I was just going to ask you, can you summarize what it actually has cost Desert Hot Springs to opt out and now come back? What have they had to pay that they wouldn't have paid except for their disapproval of the program in the first place?
The specific cost to them is actually this major amendment cost of the cost that they are paying to come back into the plan. You know, there probably hasn't been, since the plan was approved in 2008 when development was really going downhill, if you will, there hasn't been any costs in terms of the development so much. But I would say the cost to Desert Hot Springs, and Councilmember Kite may have some additions as he's the chair of the Conservation Commission.
Did the district have to be, is it reduced now from what it was originally planned because of development that went on in the interim?
Well, when the City of Desert Hot Springs joins, ultimately, after we finish this process, The fee that would be paid by any project applicant in Rancho Mirage or any other city will go down 8%, as Bud mentioned. And that would also be a reduced cost for the city of Desert Hot Springs. I couldn't honestly answer you in terms of the development impacts for Desert Hot Springs because I don't know how much development has occurred in that time frame. I'd say it's fairly limited. There hasn't been a huge amount of development over the last few years.
Okay. Richard, would you like to comment further?
Just a brief comment on the plan itself, the multiple species plan, which, as you've read in your report, has gone back many years. It's probably one of the most widely approved plans for species, multiple species in the state of California, and is used as a guideline for a lot of other agencies. But this plan does cover 27 endangered species. It also will acquire over 210,000 acres of land, which will be protected for the valley. That's out of a total 2 million acres that are part of this plan. So it's very wide-reaching. Desert Hot Springs initially withdrew from the plan because they felt it would not be in the best interest of their city to be in this plan because it would control development in the Desert Hot Springs area. As they went through and as council changed, they found that they really would benefit from the multiple species plan and approved the re-entry of them back into the multiple species plan. Without Desert Hot Springs, it would really not protect the valley as it should. And so this is really a benefit to all the cities. This has been signed off by all 9 cities, all the water districts of the area, and also the federal agencies, Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game. And they've all approved this plan. So from a development standpoint, it sets guidelines for developers, it sets fees, and so the developer doesn't have to go from agency to agency to get approvals for their projects. So this was done to protect the species, but it was also put in place to provide a path for developers in developing land in our valley. The fees will go to acquire property in the future for protection and also provide for the monitoring and the enforcement by the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission. So this is something that's really going to benefit all of the valley. And now that Mission Springs Water and Desert Hot Springs are into the plan, it will provide a complete control for the whole valley. So it's a great plan.
Okay, thank you.
And Katie has worked on it for, 20 years now? So it's been a long process, trying to get all the agencies to approve anything, all cities, the county, the various wildlife agencies, and then outside groups like the Sierra Club. It's really been an effort for us to formulate the plan to make it approval or acceptable to all agencies.
Okay. Katie, does that mean you can go on vacation now?
Well, all the cities have to go through.
Well, this is an exciting step to be at this point, and while I have the opportunity, I do want to really acknowledge Councilmember Kite, who's been the chair of the CVCC since day one and has just been tremendous. I know he worked hard in working to get Desert Hot Springs in at the beginning, so we want to just take the opportunity to thank Richard for everything he's done. Excuse me, Councilmember Kite.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we thank Richard also. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any more comments from council? Okay, well, can I have a motion to approve this item?
I'd like to move that we adopt the resolutions pursuant to staff's report here. And Steve, can we do all the motions or the resolutions in one vote?
Yes, as long as the votes come out.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that we're going to be voting on A, B, C. And if you would cast your votes now. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Steve, would you like me to read those resolutions into the record? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, now we can move on to the action calendar. And Randy, maybe you could kind of tell us who's going to be handling what?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Cindy Scott, our city clerk, will describe to you the remaining appointments to the various city boards and commissions.
Thank you, Cindy. And for this, we are going to be giving our verbal ayes or nays. Okay.
Thank you. At your last meeting, most of the appointments to the city boards and commissions were made, but we do have a few left over. And so with your permission, I would like to read vacancies on each of the commissions. And if you have a nomination, offer it. If not, of course, we can extend it. And then at the end, if you would confirm the nominations by vote of the council. That work?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll start with the Community Emergency Preparedness Commission. For Councilmember Townsend, I see a nomination of David Richardson and Alvin Greenwalt, and one that I do not have a nomination for. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. And for Councilmember Hobart, I have one vacancy. Do you have a nomination?
And we'll continue this one, please.
Okay. And for Councilmember Weil, he has 3 nominations, and I show Fred Bland, Mary Lou Suter, and Lynn Coker.
That's correct.
Okay. And Mayor Smotrich has 2 openings. Do you have nominations for those at this point?
This will be continued to the next time.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have for this commission.
No. You
No?
left me out.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I did leave you out. Shame on me. Okay.
I have an appointment for the Housing Commission. I think that's the one we're open on right now.
Oh, we're on emergency preparedness right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, so I'm right?
You're right.
Okay, good. All right, could I have confirmation by the council?
Okay, all in favor to approve?
Wait a
say
minute,
aye.
one question. Am I correct
Oh,
in
you have a-
saying that David to the emergency preparedness and that Alvin has been emergency preparedness?
You
For
just
me.
nominated, you just made those nominations?
Right.
Right, correct, okay, good.
Okay.
Cindy, are you finished with your nomination? Your names?
No, just for the emergency preparedness.
Okay.
Are we only voting on emergency preparedness
At this
here?
time.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do each of the commissions separately. I need a separate vote to confirm each commission. Okay, the
so-
next one is Historic Preservation, and I show Councilmember Hobart has an opening, but do you have a nomination at this time?
I thought you mean for emergency preparedness?
No, Historic Preservation.
Councilman Weil.
I think I've filled my my nominee for that.
Councilmember Weil, Cindy.
Okay, Councilmember Hobart, did you reappoint Carol Leibowitz
Yes.
at the last meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. Okay, it is Councilmember Weil with a nomination of Ray Keller.
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all on this one. Do we have confirmation by the council?
Move appointment.
Thank you.
Second, everybody, please vote by voice, by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Well, if you're going to
Right.
do each commission, then you need to go back to emergency preparedness and
Right.
make that motion as well.
And would it be easier if we just did them all at one time and you can read off
Well,
each one?
we already did. Didn't we already vote on emergency
We
preparedness?
did emergency
We did that.
preparedness,
And we've done historic
We've just done
preservation.
historic
Okay, so then we'll do
preservation.
them individually.
Okay, now we'll do housing.
Yes, ma'am.
That is Councilmember Kite. Do you have an appointment at this
I
time?
do, and that is Peter Samuels.
Peter Samuels.
Yes.
Move that we appoint Peter Samuels.
Okay.
Second that.
Anyone second? Okay, Richard seconds. Okay, all in favor, say
Aye.
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 Thank you.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
And I move that we continue the matter of the appointment to the Library Foundation Board until after the foundation has handled the business before it.
Okay.
Move we
Do we have
continue
a
it till the
second?
next meeting.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. All right, so we'll move on to item number 10. And this will be handled by Britt Wilson, and it's the annual levy of special taxes and assessments for fire protection and prevention and community facilities districts number 1 and 2. Thank you, Britt.
Yes, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council. Annually, the City Council confirms the various assessments and taxes in the city on parcels. The items before you today, as the Mayor just indicated, the fire and fire excise tax, Community Facility District number 1, and Community Facility District number 2. The city's fire tax and fire excise tax are applied on a citywide basis. That was started in 1980. It's $60 per dwelling unit, and a fire excise tax was established in 1990, and that was set at $13, or it's currently at $13.66 because of Prop 218. Those haven't changed for about 10 years. They're frozen in at those rates. The amount of revenue generated by the fire and the fire excise tax is approximately $3.5 million. That covers approximately 73% of the total cost of the fire fund, the expenses. The second item on the agenda is the Community Facilities District number 1, which covers public safety, police, and fire. That was adopted in 1990 by the then City Council, and anybody who's developed since that time is required to annex into that district. So each year, the special tax for CFD number 1 is calculated based on a formula that's attached as Exhibit A to the resolution. It looks at revenue and expenses, and then apportioned land cost and public safety, police versus fire, and it comes up with a calculation. For fiscal year 14-15, the special tax is proposed to be levied at $393.40, which is an increase of $54 from last fiscal or this fiscal year. The commercial will increase from its current rate of 51 cents per square foot to 56 cents per square foot in fiscal year 14-15. These the CFD raises approximately $3.6 million in revenue. There is a table in your staff report on page 4. It kind of gives you 3 and 4 gives you the past history of the fees. And the next item would be Community Facilities District number 2. This was established by the City Council in 2001, and it covers the Weston Vacation Club. That's the only property that's in CFD number 2. The purpose of that was for public services and facilities. In fiscal year 2010-2011, the City Council directed that any revenue from CFD2 would go directly to the library. The CFD2 is a little bit easier than CFD1 as far as a formula. It's just a simple CPI inflator every year, and it uses the CPI from December to December. The latest CPI increased 1.14%, so the CFD charge will increase from its current rate of $33.32 to $33.70. That's applied on a weekly basis or interval at that property. That revenue brings in approximately $278,000 per year for the city, and that provides about 9% of the funding needed for the library. We ask that you would adopt the resolutions establishing those fees, direct the city clerk to file the appropriate resolutions with the different agencies. I would also just point out just a small clerical error on the resolution for CFD number 2. In one of the whereases, it mentioned fiscal year 13-14, and it should be fiscal year 14-15. The signatory copy has been corrected, so Madam Mayor, when you sign that, it does have the correct fiscal year. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Seeing none, are there any questions from the public? Seeing none also. Okay. May I have a motion?
All right, I'll tackle this. I'll make a motion to approve the annual levy of special taxes and assessments for fire protection and Prevention and Community Facilities Districts number 1 and 2, and adopt the resolutions A, B, and C with the correction mentioned for the year 14-15.
Okay, so why don't we just,
With directions to the city clerk to,
And to file the appropriate, for the city
Okay.
clerk to
okay, so
file
why don't
them.
we vote on those three, A, B, and C, to adopt the resolutions? All in favor, press yes. Okay, motion carries 5-0. And now if we can go on to D, to direct the city clerk to file with the appropriate agencies certified copies of any or all of the above resolutions as may be required, together with accompanying exhibits, attachments, or reports. Can I have a motion on that?
so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay. And now we'll move on to item number 11, which is going to be a presentation from Sarah Steepleton from the Information Services Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To provide some background, the city has 17 multifunction print devices on several different lease schedules. 4 of the print devices have reached the end of their lease terms, and the remaining devices will complete their lease terms within 2 years. Working with the City Attorney's Office, staff developed a plan to consolidate all of the print devices into one agreement and lease schedule. For the first phase of this plan, staff released an RFP in compliance with the purchasing policy to replace the end-of-lease devices and the 2 additional devices. At the completion of this 2-year lease term, all of the devices will have fulfilled their lease terms, and staff will then release another RFP for all of the equipment on one standard length lease schedule. As outlined in the staff report, 3 proposals were received and reviewed by a panel consisting of staff from the affected departments. After reviewing the proposals, performing reference checks, and attending device demonstrations, the panel ultimately chose ImageSource as the preferred vendor. Staff requests that the council award the contract to ImageSource and authorize the city manager to enter into a 2-year lease agreement for the multifunction print devices and services. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions from the council?
I
Dana?
have some, if I may.
Okay.
Sarah, the lowest bidder of the 3 was Southern California Office Technologies. They were about $4,000 less than ImageSource. And what was the reason that you felt that they should not get that award of the bid of the project?
The panel evaluated their proposal.
Who's on the panel?
There was Johnny Almy, Ron Hall, gosh, let me think who else was there. Cindy Duff and Susan Brantley. So someone from each area that was affected by, someone who would actually be an end user for the devices, so they actually would know what functionality was required. And those staff reviewed the proposal for that particular vendor and felt that the equipment did not meet the specifications that they needed. Additionally,
before the bid went out, was there anything that was done by the staff to try to determine whether the bids were going to people who did have equipment that met the standards of what we were expecting from them?
Yes, absolutely. And that particular vendor is a Xerox reseller, and Xerox certainly has equipment that would be sufficient, but their particular proposal did not demonstrate that equipment. And yes, there were various firms contacted when the RFP was released in hopes of receiving some responses.
Okay. How many different companies were sent requests for proposals?
We posted it on the website, and links were provided to the PDF, which is still on the website. And I personally called Canon, Konica Minolta, Kyocera, Xerox, anyone, honestly, I could think of that could be interested in this.
Well, how many were mailed copies of our request for proposal?
No one was mailed a copy.
It was all emailed?
It was on the internet, which is per the purchasing policy.
I see. Okay. Did we receive questions back from any of them for clarification?
Yes, we did, and those responses were posted to the website.
Okay. Of the three that were selected, where were their home offices?
One is based out of Ontario, one in Yucca Valley, and the last one locally in Palm Desert.
The Ontario one was the low bidder, Southern California Technologies?
Yes, that's correct.
But their equipment was inadequate.
That's correct. The other concern the panel had with that particular firm was an 8-hour response time, which, as you can imagine, if staff is under the gun to get out, for example, council agendas, they certainly can't wait 8 hours to have someone come and service the equipment.
Okay. So then the next lowest bidder, about $180 or so, under image source. If I'm reading the staff report correctly, their equipment did meet specifications. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you indicate that they had only 2 technicians. In the request for proposal, was there a paragraph that asked for a particular number of technicians?
No, a particular number was not required. However, it was clearly specified that we wanted a description of all techs available so that the panel could analyze who would best be able to fit the needs of the staff.
If I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that in the request for proposal, we asked for the number of technicians that they had? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the number, the qualifications, that they were trained by the manufacturer.
And did you tell them in the request for proposal that 2 technicians was inadequate?
No, that was not specified.
But you decided not to give the bid to the low bidder because they, to use the language, I think, in your report, because they had only 2 technicians based in Yucca Valley.
Yes.
Now, what I'm wondering is, how is that considered appropriate or fair to a company that makes a bid that's not told that we required more than 2, and they are the low bidder, and they get rejected because you say they only had 2? How is that fair to them?
There is an evaluation criteria in the RFP that cost and price is certainly one of the requirements, but is not the only requirement.
Well,
the second item was the ability to provide the required equipment and services. And then it goes on about qualification and experience, technical support structure, and on and on. And so there are a number of criteria that had to be weighed by the panel.
Let's stick with the criteria. If it's just one criterion, let's stick with that one. If I'm understanding correctly, you say the reason that they were not selected, Desert Images was not selected, even though they're the next lowest bidder, you say, quote, equipment met specifications, semicolon, only 2 technicians based in Yucca Valley caused concern for response time. Now, you didn't cite any other reason, and they are the low bidder. So what I want to do is I want to find out, one, you never told them not to bid if they only had 2 technicians, and in your request for proposals, if you look at page 5 of your proposal, you say The vendor will provide routine maintenance and repair services for no additional fee. Service will be furnished to the city between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Only fully trained and qualified technicians shall perform the maintenance of the copiers. Okay. Then down a little bit, it says you want them to include in their information the number of trained technicians for each machine and so forth. And you concluded, though, that 2 was not enough. And what I don't understand is, how can you conclude that they lose the bid, low bidder, if they haven't been told that they had to have more than 2? I mean, that's just inherently not fair to them, is it?
Well, the panel evaluated based on the proposal
I know the
and based on the
panel
demonstration.
evaluated it, but tell me on that point how you can justify denial in selecting a local firm instead. How can you justify denial based on them having only 2 technicians and not having told them in advance that that was a requirement?
Well, ultimately, when the panel evaluated all the various criteria, they just felt that Image Source was a better fit. And it may be in 2 years when another RFP is released for all the equipment, they might have a different opinion at that time. But based on everything that went through this process, that was the selection the panel ultimately chose.
Well, it's difficult for a member of the council such as myself to evaluate what you said because you're just talking now in general terms about, well, this group of city staff decided this wasn't the right one, but the reasons you gave are all we have to go by. And so saying that the 2 wasn't enough and that caused you concern, what I'm wondering is, did you read their presentation? Their response?
Yes.
Okay. How did you interpret the page that they supplied you in response where it says vendors shall include ... the number of trained technicians? I'm looking at their document here, and what it says in 2009, Desert Images welcomed Ryan McGowan to the team as another trained service technician. All 3 of these employees, other 2 having been identified in the same paragraph, all 3 of these employees are factory trained and trained by the manufacturer of the machines through training courses to all dealers. So they had 3, not 2, technicians capable of serving us.
Actually, Mr. Hobart, they did clarify they have 2 for the area.
I'm sorry?
They clarified that there were 2 technicians for this area.
Who did you talk to?
That was part of the question and answer of the RFP.
Did you talk to somebody from them?
There were written questions, and those were the responses.
Do you have their response where they said
They're
that?
posted to the website. I don't have them in front of me.
You posted their response where they said they had 2 technicians?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I'd like to see the document, but on the other hand, you don't have it. I did invite Mr. John Zachariah, who's the president of the company, and I don't know if he's here or not, because yes, he is. I see his hand back there. I've never met him, I don't know anything about any of these people, but he tells me that they have 3 technicians, and I'm going into this detail because even though the difference between the 2 lower bidders is only $180, if they are a responsible bidder, we don't have the option of just saying, well, we want somebody else. We have to follow the law that says we award it to the lowest responsible bidder.
Mr. Hobart, the criteria of the RFP, the cost was certainly one requirement, but it's not the only requirement. And the panel ultimately was just not comfortable with the number of support technicians. They need to know that they'll have someone there when they need someone.
How much time, what do you mean, in an emergency situation?
Right. If the
And
device
only
is
in an
down.
emergency situation are you talking about, am I right?
Oh, no, we call out for equipment repairs every day. Any number.
Well, you call out for questions, they don't come here every day.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Technicians may be called from time to time, but we don't have technicians coming here every day of the week to work on
A couple times a week, actually. We absolutely, we have technicians here every week.
Okay. Is that part of their contract? Is that part of the routine maintenance that they provide?
Routine maintenance, and also whenever we need training, whenever we need support, whenever there's something broken.
Who's been providing our service up to now?
We're currently using Image Source.
On an emergency basis, how much time did Desert Images tell you that they would need to be here in an emergency?
I don't know that I asked a specific question about an emergency.
Oh. On page, under the title, Work Plan Technical Approach, their paragraph 3, they say, upon incoming service request, we will respond within 4 business hours of receiving the information. That seems adequate to me for any company. Are you saying that's not adequate to our panel of 4?
The panel did perform reference checks, and I want to say that everyone had great things to say about the company, loved the technicians. Everyone had a lot of respect for what you do. We did hear, though, that sometimes it would go into the after hours, and that did cause some concern.
What about after hours? Give me that again.
Sometimes service could not be performed by 5 o'clock when the doors close.
So what?
So systems are down.
So it waits till the next morning, right?
So maybe we don't get agenda packets out until Monday. That's what that would mean.
Or Friday. Well, at any rate, I would, after anybody else has questions, I'd like to hear what Mr. Zachariah has to say about the extent to which his company was able and is able to meet our requirements. Again, because I think we have to pay great deference to the law that says we hire the lowest bidder if that person is responsible. So I don't have anything further at this moment.
Okay. Sarah, maybe you could tell us where Image Source is located?
Palm Desert.
Okay. And they've been with us for how long?
Before I was with the city. So many, many years.
Okay.
Does that give them a priority?
No, I think the only advantage is they have a proven track record.
Did we tell other bidders that
yes,
we expect them to be here faster than somebody who has an office in Palm Desert?
No.
I didn't see that in the request for proposal. No.
Okay. Well, Dana, would you like to have Mr. Zachariah?
Well, I wonder if you would, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from council members at this time? Okay. Welcome.
My name is John Zakaria, and I started in this industry in 1979 as a technician. I am the invisible technician at Desert Images. I'm factory trained up until a certain point. I feel that our dealership can handle just about any responsibility. We have 340 machines on the Marine Corps base. I take care of Forest Lawn here locally, Remax, many large facilities, the Moyles family, I've been with them 25 years. They're in the Central Valley. I feel that when you look at a dealership, you look at the core of their serviceability. And I can take care of the city of Rancho Mirage. And excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous speaking in front of a lot of people. But as a technician and a technical department, one of our technicians came in third in the nation in the United States. Service is our strength. If you give us this 24 months opportunity to show you what we can do, I believe that that reputation and relationship will continue on. Are there any questions about my dealership?
How long does it take you to respond to an emergency situation?
You know, we have guaranteed 4-hour accounts, Copper Mountain College, Morongo Basin Mental Health when they were in existence in the high desert. We have several that are in that category. And when we get an email or a service call via phone, our technicians are dispatched. So it happens, today I brought Ryan and Casey with me because they were on service calls in the lower desert. So this is not a familiar or unfamiliar territory to us. We're down here all the time.
How long does it take you to get here from your office?
45 minutes to an hour.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
The only parting comment that I might have is that looking at reliability, we feel that we have a very reliable product and it will serve. It serves the town of Yucca Valley very well. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Just one moment. Do you have, are you presently servicing other clients here in the valley, in this area?
Absolutely. We do all the forest lawn facilities. We do REMAX. When Lorenzo Lombardoli was in business, we did all of his REMAX facilities from here to San Diego. We now do Peters here locally. We have many doctors, lawyers' offices, things of that nature. So we have quite a client base down in the lower desert.
And those are all available for references?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Captus, I do all of their real estate offices as well.
Can you give us an indication of what your average time would be for arrival?
You know, I would guarantee that we would definitely be here within 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
And, you know, I think what's going to be important is the uptime. You know, as Sarah was speaking, you know, and we don't have that relationship yet, but our clients do. You know, there's churches and places that we deal with. They know that the equipment is very, very reliable. We don't have a lot of downtime. If there was an instance, we have backup equipment as loaners to make sure that there's a seamless integration between that service call and if it is a down situation, that equipment gets back up and running.
Okay, so there is no downtime. Do you come with your equipment or?
We would have our truck bring our equipment. We also have a driver that's available with the liftgate truck. We have a 14-foot delivery truck, and we have the equipment in the warehouse. We bring it out, install it. We work with IT and make sure that particular department is back up and running.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dana, would you like to?
Yes,
Richard, you have a
comment? I just have a question of the city attorney. Steve? Dana's concern is that we are not hiring the lowest bidder if they are as qualified to meet our qualifications. Are we able to make a decision, as this committee has done, and not select the lowest bidder?
Yeah, the general rule is that when you have a bidding process set up, you award it to the lowest bidder, and it's also the lowest responsible bidder. The way it's set up in your particular policy is that you do put a panel, there is a panel that gets together and they evaluate it and they present it to the city manager, and then a recommendation is made by the city manager, and I assume that that recommendation includes an evaluation as to whether or not they are the lowest responsible bidder.
Has the city manager reviewed this?
And yes, and I'm fine with either of those two companies, as is IT.
Okay. I have one question of Sarah. Since we've had the image source for so many years, how many times have there been downtimes where there has been no service or problematic service?
We've had a very good experience with Image Source being able to respond to our equipment needs. These machines get used like you wouldn't believe, so we do have downtime.
Okay, but if you call them, can they come out with replacement pieces so that you would not have downtime?
Yes, absolutely.
And is that something that they've done in the past?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I have a question also.
okay.
Sarah, does the company that we have now, do they respond quicker than this other company with the lowest bid could respond to?
I'm not sure I can answer that question because I don't have an experience yet with this other vendor. Okay. They're saying they can guarantee 4 hours. So if they can meet that, then I think we would be okay.
And I have one more question. It seems that all these three bids are almost, like for like. Do you guys have a certain, $20 an hour or is it kind of in the industry that you all came in so close, yet you were at like $100 off? Yeah, please.
The industry's gotten so competitive.
Why don't you come down in front so we can hear you at the microphone?
The industry has gotten so competitive that we, as a dealer, went to our manufacturer and said, these are the people that we're up against. And they afforded us below dealer cost. What we would normally pay as a dealer, they dropped those margins just so that we can compete in those arenas. And to answer the question, in the service world, we charge per page. And it's about the consumables that go in the machine. How long does the toner last? What the fill rates are on what is being output onto the paper, and how long the other consumables within the machine are. So a per hour basis, we don't base our service on that. We base it on the cost per page. But all of us charge basically between $120 and $150 an hour if there was a billable situation. In this environment, there never would be because it's covered as under a service and maintenance agreement. But quoting bids like this, as a dealer, as we have been for 18 years, we went to Kyocera and said, we would love to get the city of Rancho Mirage added to the town of Yucca Valley and the others that we have. So they came with very aggressive pricing so that we could afford to come up with the bid that we did.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, Dana, as long as Sarah and Randy both feel comfortable with...
Well, I would move that we approve and accept the bid of Desert Images to carry on the services of providing us leased equipment pursuant to the terms outlined in the staff report and in the request for proposal.
Okay, can I have a second? Okay, thank you. All right. Okay.
My understanding is that if we approved the recommendation of retaining image source, it would only be for 2 years. And then at the end of that 2-year period, essentially everything became due. Is that accurate?
Yes, we spent quite a number of hours at the city attorney's office trying to come up with a plan where we could get everything on one schedule. And this was the best way we could come up with, was to deal with our immediate need on a short-term 2-year basis and then have everything up for an RFP.
And the bid of Desert Images is also for 2 years?
Yes, all 3 vendors came back with 2-year
So everything,
proposals.
regardless of who we selected, everything would be due in 2 years to reevaluate the entire package. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
So that essentially, regardless of who we selected now, we would not be locked in for any longer period than that. Okay, that influences me because if the term of one was greater than the other, I would struggle with that. Thank you.
The question I have here really has to do with the procedure that we go through in selecting vendors. And it seems that there's $190 difference between these vendors, but the panel seems to think that one company is better than the other. If we are not going to take their recommendations, I think we are missing the whole process here, and then we're just saying, well, we're going to take the lowest bidder. And I think that's fine if it's in a contract where we don't have a panel established to go through and look at these companies more clearly and see if there's some reason why we should pay somebody $190 more than the low bidder. So
Councilmember Kite, I do see that a member of Image Source is here. If perhaps maybe he could address that question.
Okay, as long as you're here, why don't you come forward? And please state your name and your city.
Yeah, my name is Stan Mays, and I'm with Image Source here. We're based out of Palm Desert, and I've been the account manager here for the city for the last 12 years. And can you repeat that question one more time in regard to the, well, your last question?
Well, the question was really more of a comment as to the panel selection as opposed to being the lowest bidder. And the whole process involves an evaluation of the company that we hire, and the issue was, even though it may be lower, $190, are they the best quality company? And, you know, that's the process, and I'm not sure how we get around what Dana's concerned about is making that decision to select the lowest bidder.
You know, it was to my understanding that, you know, in just like when we go and make bids to companies, to cities, that there's a lot of criteria other than the lowest bidder, because there are security concerns, which is, for example, there's a lot of concerns in regards to tampering with equipment. You can see on site that Xerox is one of the top in producing, as in securities, as in tamper-proof. We are what we call system-wide common criteria certified. And this is one of the reasons that why the city and Department of Defense of our country uses Xerox products is it's tamper-proof. You know, there are several companies that they'll call to be certified, but they're not fully what we call system-wide certification on it. Not only are those, but just the response time that we have here as well. For example, we talked about downed equipment. Sarah notified me department, one of the departments was having issues, and I actually told me our internet was down, so I got it through our email system through my iPad, and got back with her, got our service manager involved, and I also have, which was here on site, a replacement for it. So it's one of these things where how fast can you do something? We actually have one with us to take to the other location to get this other location up and going until the issue is resolved. One of the things that has always been a concern with products is a total satisfaction guarantee. And one of the reasons when I first started here, started with the MIS manager, was John Ureberry, and one of his major concerns was what's the issue if a problem goes down with the equipment. Being a short 2-year period, there's generally not going to be a problem, but one thing that Xerox and also Image Source stands behind is their total satisfaction guarantee, and that states that during any time if the machine is not working properly, or there's too many issues, Xerox will replace it at no charge and will keep that machine there, and it may even be a newer model until that lease is complete on that. So like you said, there's more than one reason other than price that we have been a vendor here for the city for so long. We're even about 7 years prior to myself showing up. But it's the same.
Can we
as
wind this up?
The gentleman here indicates that service is what it's all about. A box is a box. I believe some of our products are better, but it's how you respond, the relationship that you have with people, and can you take care of them in the time of needs. And there are times, I'll be called up 30 minutes away. If I can't be there, I'm within an hour and a half. I'm not a technician myself, but I can pull a technician off a job and send them somewhere else. I have up to 8 technicians out here, about 3 from Image Source and about 5 from Xerox Corporation that are here and stationed here in the Valley. So we generally can cover and take care of the needs, because we have other cities as well. Have all the school districts, Desert Sands, Coachella Valley Unified School Districts, Palm Springs. It's one of those things, if you can't get these people up and going, there's a lot of teachers, and their rates of going down are quite often because machines will get up to 4 million images a year. So we have to be quick and we have to be fast. And if we haven't had these accounts for the last 10 years and our response time wasn't good, then we wouldn't be in business today. So once again, it does revolve around the service, including the products.
Okay, thank you so much for coming up. Ted, you have another comment?
You presently represent those school districts?
Not all of them, no. I'm just one of the account managers out here. The owner of the area he had multiple meetings. The business manager or office manager, which was my wife, there was family emergency, so I'm stepping in, but this is my account. But I handle, as in school districts, personally, Desert Sands and Coachella Valley. We have another rep that handles...
I guess my question is, does Image Source provide the services to those school districts?
Yes.
They do.
Image Source, the thing is, when we use the name Image Source, we are just a dealer of Xerox. We pull, like indicate, we pull from several areas. If majority of the technicians come directly from Xerox Corporation, and 2 or 3 will come from out of our office. The system is set up that if our technician is not available, then it goes to the next technician that is in line. And Xerox developed a system, it's built into their iPhones, that wherever they're located, they know who the next technician, whether it's ours from ImSource or Xerox Corporation, that is closest to that account that can handle that account.
All right. Have you been the contact person with the city here?
Yes, I've been the contact for the last 12 years.
And during that 12-year period, are you aware of any conflicts or issues that conceivably would cause a breach in the relationship during that period?
Conflicts, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Have there been any, Sarah, that you're aware of?
No, we've had a very good experience with Image Source and with Stan.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You may not know the answer. You may know the answer. And Sarah, I'm sure, knows the answer. Sarah, isn't part of this request for a proposal that not only must the bidder pay or charge for the hardware, the machines, 6 copy machines, but one of them includes the big copy machine downstairs, and that is a Xerox, isn't it?
Yes.
And I'm giving you a question yet. And that Xerox, we are sending back now before the lease runs out, and the people who are bidding on this have got to agree to pay Xerox $17,000 that represents the market value of the machine and some other incidental, but total of $17,000 in their bids is to get rid of the machine we've got right now. And my question is, and it's only this question, my question is, who provided us with that machine?
The reason that staff...
Who provided us with that machine?
Image Source provided that machine based on their requirements at the time. And the requirements that staff have today are a little bit different. One of the
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are.
The primary difference is that they would like color, because as you know, the agenda packets now have more and more color presentations. Right. And it's very time consuming for the staff downstairs in records to print separately all the color pieces and then piece them back into your packet.
Right. And fortunately for us, Desert Images is offering a different type of machine, and they've agreed to pay back Xerox the remaining value of their machine. Thank you.
All right. Well, after all this discussion,
But
Dana, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
And I believe a second.
Let me just respond to Richard's point. Why the council doesn't accept automatically, apparently.
No, I didn't say automatic.
No, you didn't. But if you did say, why don't we accept the panel's pick? And I would say, for the same reason we don't accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission all the time. We do mostly, but we've certainly rejected the Planning Commission time after time over the years. It's because the council is the one that has to make the decision based on the information that we get from all concerned. And frankly, I think it is an important point for the council to recognize that our city lives by the low bidder, low responsible bidder rule, and that we not become a city that people begin to, well, I don't know if they're going to approve us on low bid. We give our best bid, and then some people in the staff decide that, well, I've got a concern. And that's all it is stated here. It caused concern for response times. That is not, in my view, a substantive ground for rejecting the low bid. Anyway, my motion is we accept the bid of Desert Images.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Would everybody please vote? And the motion carries 4-1. Thank you so much.
One thing about that vote, Madam Mayor, is that it's only a 2-year contract for 4 machines, and it's sort of an opportunity maybe for a staff to test drive a new company. And when we put out the RFP for maintaining all of the machines in the future, we'll have a little more experience.
Exactly. I thank you so much. And thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dana and Richard. Moving on to the next item. And Isaiah will be handling the item number 12. But first, Randy is going to give us a few words about this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are proud to present the city budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015. Last year, a 2-year budget was prepared. The council approved only the 2013-2014 budget. And I want to mention that over the past couple of weeks, the finance director and myself have met with the department directors and key city staff to prepare the amendments to the preliminary budget that you're going to look at today. We then met with our budget subcommittee consisting of Mayor Pro Tem Hobart and Councilman Kite to review the budget chapter by chapter, and we also met individually with several other council people to go through the staff report page by page this past week. You will see that our operating revenues are $22.9 million. Our operating expenditures are $22.1 million, so there's an $800,000 surplus. However, staff and the subcommittee are recommending that we spend down $9 million of our reserves on various capital projects. Our finance director, Isaiah Hagerman, I want to thank him very much, and he's going to go into some of the details of the general fund operating revenues and expenditures, and he will also mention that we're asking you to approve the library, housing, and community services district's budgets. And thank you very much to the subcommittee.
Thank you, Isaiah.
Thank you, Mr. Binder. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the 6 resolutions before you today address you in your various roles on the different boards that you represent. Those are items A through F. I'm going to spend the majority of my presentation focusing on the general fund. When we originally put together the 14-15 budget, we had a very tight operating surplus. It was projected to be $30,500. Based on this most recent review, we are recommending changes that will add $775,000 to the projected surplus for 14-15. That consists of an addition of $500,000 to the operating revenues and a reduction in our operating expenditures of approximately $275,000. That will bring our total estimated operating surplus for 14-15 to just above $800,000. So that is a really good sign on a $23 million budget to have almost $1 million there in room. a significant improvement from what we saw a year and a half ago. The details of which are all outlined in the staff report of what comprise those adjustments. You'll see on the non-operating side, this is really where we focus on our capital projects and community improvements. And this spending is really controlled by the council's fund balance policy. And so what you see here is the implementation of that policy. The major items that make up that $9 million investment by the general fund is $5 million for the Ritz Spa Suite purchase, which is a temporary outlay, and we actually will earn 4% and 5% on that money. So, and then we get it back at the end. The other item is $2 million for Section 19, the investment there that makes development in Section 19 possible, and then about $3.5 million in various community and capital projects. The other item that I wanted to focus on was actually in the library budget. So if you go to page 12-38, this is the staff report that deals with the library budget for 14-15. I would just like to note quickly the addition of a new fund. It's going to be Fund 244 in our system, and this is for the Writers Festival Foundation. Previously, this event was captured within our library fund, Fund 242, and we are proposing to move this event and all revenues and expenses associated with this event to this new Fund 244. This will allow us greater information as far as tracking this event on the progress of revenues and different types of revenues and expenditures versus when it was within 242, it was really just captured all in one account. So we have created much more detail for financial reporting purposes. As I mentioned earlier, there are some other resolutions here for your approval that are pretty standard, dealing with staff allocation schedules. For the general fund action, which is action A on the agenda, staff noted that 2 budget adjustments were missing from the staff report. So in addition to the changes noted in the staff report, staff would like to propose the 2 additional adjustments for council's consideration. The first adjustment is general fund account number 5300-7583 with a budgeted amount of $13,000, that be transferred and added to the SAF budget in account 7100-7456. The second adjustment is a decrease in the general fund account number 7100-7488 budget by $22,500. So that would be a reduction in that account by $22,500. And that concludes my presentation, and staff is available for questions.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a lovely report. And is there anyone that has any questions on the council? Dana, go right ahead.
Madam Mayor, when I finish the comments that I've prepared, I will offer a motion that the council not fund the Development Services Director position and would move for adoption of the rest of the budget as proposed. Initially, it's important to me, and I hope to everyone, that the grounds for this motion be understood clearly. This is not a personal issue on my part. Strike that, not a personal issue, and it's not a personnel issue. Personnel issues are decided solely by the city manager. Personnel refers to performance. This has nothing to do with performance. What I'm offering is solely a budgetary issue. One of the primary responsibilities of the City Council is to closely monitor the expenditure of public tax dollars to ensure that the public's business is being conducted efficiently and in the most cost-effective manner possible. This means that when we need to create a position to provide an essential municipal service, we fund that position through the budget process, which in effect authorizes the city manager to fill that position. Likewise, when we see that there is funding for a position that we believe is not essential, we should discontinue funding that position and thereby eliminate it. It is the way our form of city government is intended to work. In other words, when we conclude that a position is not providing an essential service, we have an obligation to cease funding that position. Following the 2008 recession, we had considerably less work to perform in the city, but we did not lay anybody off. We juggled around and moved people around and did what we could to preserve everyone's job. Not one job was lost as a consequence of action by the city. We did have attrition, that is, people who retired, died, or moved away for some reason. We did leave those positions unfulfilled. But we were compassionate when we had to be compassionate, in the hope that a reviving economy would soon justify us getting back to normal. And what I see here is unnecessary duplication of duties. And when this exists, we must be willing to trim down to the extent required to remain effective while being prudent. The Development Services Director position costs the city approximately $215,000. That includes an annual salary of $140,000, benefits of $40,000, they cost $40,000, and a pension contribution of about $35,000 currently. This is not a question of whether we have the money to afford this position. Rather, it is a question concerning the productive use of our money. Our residents have every right to rely on us to be responsible with their money, such as by eliminating funding for a position that produces little or no added value to services already provided. In my view, the position is unnecessary and creates more bureaucracy, duplication of duties, slower response times, and additional expense. The duties of the Development Services Director are as follows. The director directs, plans, organizes, supervises, and instructs all divisions and personnel within the Development Services Department. The Development Services Department is responsible for building and safety, planning, code compliance, economic development, marketing, and housing authority programs. In short, the director oversees 5 divisions of the city: the Planning Department, Building and Safety Department, Code Compliance Department, Economic Development, and Housing Authority. In my view, the grounds for taking this action include the following. The position creates a second layer of supervision of these division sections that is unnecessary and costing the city approximately $215,000 per year, including the pension and benefits contributions. At considerable expense, we are duplicating efforts in each of these sections with an unnecessary layer of bureaucratic oversight. Our staff personnel already in place have demonstrated that they were selected by the city manager because they were experienced and competent by way of their training, education, and expertise to manage the duties required of them. I have seen nothing to suggest that these division heads require an additional layer of supervision that the city manager does not already provide. When a division head believes something should be presented to the council or to the city manager, that decision should be made by the particular professional, not by an overseer with veto authority who lacks the division head's level of expertise. When a division head believes something should be presented to the council, that information should be conveyed. Our Development Services Director is charged with directing the planning and supervising the Planning Division. The duties assigned to our Planning Division Manager, Bud Kopp, are as follows. His duty is to plan, organize, direct, and coordinate all planning department activities, projects, and programs, plans, assigns, directs, and reviews the work for assigned personnel, technical, and support planning functions and staff, represents the city on various local and regional committees and other working groups pertaining to land use, planning, and development policies, and matters and other technical issues. Even if the current Development Services Director had a background in these fields, we still have no need for a second person overseeing our planning division. Bud Kopp has been part of the planning team for a number of years, and he has led this department for 2 years or so, ever since Randy Binder was appointed city manager. Mr. Kopp manages 4 others in the planning division. If unexpected or novel issues are raised from time to time, our city manager, who spent 25 years in the planning department, including as its head and leader, is available as our outside experts we can retain on an as-needed basis. Our Development Services Director is also charged with supervision of the Building Division. The Building Division is currently supervised by Steve Buchanan, a longtime employee in this division. His duties include plans, directs, supervises employees assigned to the Building Division, coordinates and reviews the work of building plan check engineers and inspectors as necessary, directs and participates in the issuance of building and related permits for building construction activities within the city, meets with, advises, and assists contractors, engineers, architects, and developers regarding the city's building construction policies and regulations. Again, even if the current Development Services Director had a background in these fields, we still have no need for a second person overseeing our Planning Division Manager. I don't mean Planning Division, I'm sorry. I mean our Building Division Manager. Mr. Buchanan also supervises 3 others in this division. And again, if unexpected and novel issues are raised from time to time, our city manager, who spent 25 years in the planning department, is available as our outside experts we can retain on an as-needed basis. Next, our Development Services Director is in charge of Economic Development Division. First, it should be noted that there is an inherent conflict of interest between the director for this position and his role as a director of the Planning Division. He is expected to encourage as much new development as possible within the city as economic developer. Yet, as the head of the Planning Division, he should be protecting the quality of development within the city. The city gets a much better checks and balances when the two departments are not led by the same person. The Economic Development Division is currently supervised by Sean Smith. His duties include the following: directs, coordinates the activities of the Economic Development and Housing divisions of the city, provides daily supervision and direction of economic development and housing support staff, assists in activities resulting from the dissolution of the city's redevelopment agency. To assist potential business interests with their questions and efforts concerning locating in Rancho Mirage, Economic Development Manager Sean Smith has been and can continue to provide this information competently to those making inquiries, and to those who need assistance along the way. He also has been a hands-on supervisor of the Public Housing Department since the departure of Paul Franco 2 or 3 years ago. At significant expense, the city hires a management company to make day-to-day decisions affecting these affordable housing developments. Mr. Smith has been working interactively with this company for years. Mr. Smith also supervises one additional member of our Economic Development Division. There is no economic justification for an additional layer of expense or supervision in this division. Next, our Development Services Director is in charge of code compliance. He supervises our Code Compliance Department, which is charged with investigating complaints regarding the city's municipal code, including zoning, signs, land use, property maintenance, business license, animal control, mobile home parks, etc. The manager of this division is Sandra Johnson. It is her full-time job, and her job description is virtually identical. She supervises 4 full-time people working under her. Neither the city nor this division is benefited by a 6th member of the code compliance team, supervisor or otherwise. Ms. Johnson can turn to Bud Kopp, the planning manager, as needed when she has issues having to do with the city's municipal code in that regard. She can turn to Steve Buchanan on building code issues as needed. She can turn to the fire department inspector as needed. And she can turn to the city's law enforcement officers if she needs law enforcement help. And she can turn to our city manager for help interpreting any of these rules and regulations. And next, our Development Services Director is charged with supervising the marketing manager. The duties of the marketing manager are set forth specifically. Our marketing manager is Robert Barrett, and it's his job to coordinate the planning, design, and implementation of the city's marketing, hotel promotion, and tourism programs to enhance the image and economic well-being of the city through e-marketing, advertising, website management, special events, public relations, and community relations, provides administrative support to Economic Development Department for tourism and economic development activities as needed. Our current marketing manager is highly skilled and a recognized marketing leader in the Valley and indeed throughout California. He is highly capable of supervising others in the marketing division. To say that he is supervised in his responsibilities is virtually an oxymoron. The city can save nearly $250,000 with this defunding motion. I believe that it is our responsibility to be serious managers of the city's finances, and that the term fiscal responsibility is not just a campaign slogan. And my motion would be that the City Council amend the attached resolution, which will be part of the motion to adopt the budget. I move that the City Council amend the attached resolution and adoption of budget in such places and in such manner as to not fund the position of Rancho Mirage Development Service Director for fiscal year 2014-2015. I also think that following this, we should authorize a period of, that there be severance pay. I would suggest 3 months, but leave that to the council's discretion. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize for taking such a lengthy period of time.
Well, thank you so much for your contribution regarding this matter. Do we have any questions, or we have a second?
Yes, I do. First of all, I will second the motion, but I have some comments to make. One of the challenges for me, and one of the stimulations that I have as being on the City Council, is my finance and development background. I had the opportunity to go through the budget extensively with Isaiah Hagerman this past week, who I thought did an outstanding job. And I have so expressed that to him. I spend a lot of time going through a budget on a line item basis, and I like to feel that it's an area that I can make a contribution by decreasing costs. Part of our task of being on the council is to make the tough decisions. It's very easy to say things are going well. We have a very successful city. We have excellent revenue. We have a bountiful general fund. But that's not good enough, and that's not why we're in this position, and that's not why we've been elected to fulfill our responsibilities. We always look to see if we can do better. I believe that we can. I think that Councilman Hobart is courageous in a number of the things that he does. I felt that at the last meeting, his suggestion regarding the retirement of the unfunded pension liability was a brilliant and strategic move. And I also feel that this is also a very important move, albeit a difficult move. It's always very painful. And I struggle with any time you are affecting somebody's life or somebody's job, you have to think about that. You have to reflect upon it. And yet, on the other hand, I also reflect upon our responsibility to 17,000 residents. And the fact that we are entrusted to take care of their money. And that's the overriding consideration for me. Therefore, as difficult as it might be, I feel strongly about seconding this motion.
Thank you so much, Ted. All right, I will call for a vote. Okay. I'm sorry. Are there any members of the audience that would like to comment on this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comments and maybe.
Can I just make one comment about the budgeting process? Dana and I worked on as the subcommittee, and I know we want to thank Isaiah and Randy for working with us and the rest of staff in putting together a very good, high-quality budget for the coming year. And the numbers really show that we have more money to spend. We've done a great job in managing our funds over the last year and look forward to the next year. But Isaiah, you and your staff did a great job. Randy, as usual, you brought a lot to the table in looking at the budgeting process, and all the connected staff I know has spent several months working on this budget, and we thank you for it.
Okay.
I share those comments about all the work the staff, Isaiah in particular and Randy, have put into this process. It's not an easy budget to put together, the second half of the two-year budget.
Thank you both so much. And I would certainly echo what has been said here. It is a very difficult task. Isaiah and your staff did a remarkable job. You explained it to all of us in a remarkable fashion, so it was understandable and questions were answered very efficiently. And we do have the best interests of our residents at our hearts and our minds, and sometimes it's very difficult. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The motion as amended would affect, I think, 3 of the resolutions.
Okay. Would you like to
If you worked it out with
Elaborate
them.
on that.
The two adjustments that Isa had mentioned before? Is that what you-
Right, the two adjustments had mentioned before, and the adjustment that Councilman Hobart had made, Mayor Pro Tem Hobart had made, will have to, his motion was to amend the budget in such places and in such manner as to not fund the Development Services Director position, and that will affect several of these resolutions, and I just want to make that comment.
Okay. Thank you so much. So if there are no other comments, I would like to call for a vote. Okay, please vote. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. And I think that covers all the items that were on the agenda today. I want to thank everyone so much for being here today and wish you a very good evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.